There has been much debate over the years as to which frequency of sound is more beneficial to humans. The 432 Hz frequency because of its long relation to music and also health benefits. Others claim that the 528 Hz one is the superior frequency we should be using. Each side of the discussion has some solid arguments which are rooted in history, mathematics, science, music, and above all else, wellness. But which frequency is actually best for us? What are the similarities and differences, if any, between these two? How can somebody pick between two frequencies that have been proven over time to stimulate and enhance humans? From tuning forks to instruments that can record sounds in space, and from ancient geniuses to today's scientists, there are plenty of options and information out there to help anyone make the right decision between these two frequencies. All it takes is a bit of research and an open mind about what you are likely to find. What is the 432 Hz frequency? For many people, the 432 Hz frequency is already something quite familiar that they use every day. But for those that don't know much about it, here are a few things you should be aware of. First of all, this is one of the oldest frequencies ever used in tuning. It's so old, in fact, that there were instruments found in Egyptian sites that suggest it was used by the singers of the day. Yes, those instruments didn't necessarily have too much range to them, but archaeologists could still measure what kind of sounds they made and see what their frequency was. The 432 Hz frequency is mentioned pretty often in music history. That's because this is the frequency that Verdi and other composers used to tune their instruments before playing them. Although the composers liked using the 432 frequency, in 1939, it was decided to standardize all tuning to a 440 Hz frequency. There have been a lot of theories about this move, some of them even including the Nazis and the Rockefeller Foundation. Others even go further and say that the entire music industry is being used to corrupt people by using music designed to play at a 440 Hz frequency and so stimulate the aggressive side of people.
It wasn't until 1939 that an international conference held in London recommended to use A440 as a compromise between the various tuning systems used at the time, some of which reached beyond 450 Hz. In fact, the BBC required their orchestras to tune to A440 instead of A439 because 439 is a prime number, and that frequency was difficult to generate electronically with standard electronic clock.
The 432 Hz frequency is also closer to the Schumann resonance, or the frequency of the Earth. The Schumann resonance is at around 8 Hz, so tuning any instrument to a multiple of that, which 432 is, would give anyone doing so a much sharper sound, more in tune with the natural world around them. Granted, some may say that the Schumann resonance has changed over time, and it may not be a perfect 8 Hz. But considering that Schumann resonance was first measured in 1960, that's a pretty good match. 432 also appears in texts about the Great Flood, as described by the Babylonians. For them, 432,000 years passed between the moment of creation and the Great Flood. And they're not the only ancient civilization to connect this number to important things in their culture. Ancient Egyptians integrated numbers into their pyramids. The Great Pyramid is 1 to 43,200 in relation to the Earth as a matter of size.
And then what about Khufu, the Great Pyramid? Okay, so you've got a pi and a phi pyramid here. You know, you can see on the right the phi pyramid. If the half base is 1, then the height is the root of phi and the hypotenuse is phi. Unbelievable. And if the half base is pi, then the height is 4. And you've got the 7:11 ratio there of base to height. And normally it's given as 440 Egyptian royal cubits for the base and 280 for the height. But if you give the base in the long cubits, it's 432. The base of the Great Pyramid is 432 long cubits, and if you take the height, unbelievable, it's 432 times that 711.
Stonehenge also has some interesting connections to the number. Dividing the Platonic year of 25,920 by the number of stones used to construct the monument, which is 60, we get precisely 432. So ancient civilizations weren't so ignorant about the number as some may think. Even more so, they managed to include it in a lot of their works and even used it to do complex mathematical equations. That makes the number itself a part of both nature and the civilizations that have developed over time. What about the 528 Hz frequency? Maybe not as well known as the 532 Hz frequency, the 528 Hz has supporters that say it's even more important than the former. Although this can't really be confirmed in any way, the 528 Hz frequency has some interesting connections to history, science, and nature as well. When music was first theorized, 6 solfeggio frequencies were defined. This was one of them. Many say that this might even be the most important of them because it's the one considered to be used in many ancient religious chants. Although this idea has been disputed, many musical instruments found dating back thousands of years have been proven to be tuned to this frequency, or at least be capable of producing sounds that vibrate at that frequency. There are also some very impressive examples in our times of artists using the 528 Hz frequency to create music.
There's 9 core creative frequencies. In fact, these are the perfect circle of sound. This is called the perfect circle of sound. There's 9 notes that creates everything in the universe. The third note in that sequence is 528. The old original solfeggio, ancient musical scale that had 6 notes. These are 9 now, it completes the circle. But the first notes were not do, re, mi, but ut, re, mi. Mi stands for Miragestorum in Latin, or miracles in English. So the miracle note of the universe is love. The miracle note of the universe is 528 Hz frequency, and it's the heart of everything.
But the 528 Hz frequency isn't limited to just music. Because light travels similarly to sound, this frequency can be used to express a light wavelength. And because the color is simple light perceived at various wavelengths, the 528 Hz frequency can be expressed as a part of the electromagnetic color spectrum. Some may be surprised that this frequency is very close to the center of that spectrum. It can even be linked to other celestial bodies. Just like 432 has a direct connection to the Earth, the 528 Hz frequency has a connection to the Sun. That's because the Sun has a measurable sound emitting from it at 528 Hz. Over time, scientists and researchers have also made a connection between Saturn and the 528 Hz frequency. That's because just as the Earth has its frequency that resonates into space, so do the other planets. And Saturn's has been measured to be at 528 Hz. 528 can also be found in math. The number is a Pythagorean one, and also has various implications in finding the value of pi and phi, both very important to ancient builders and mathematicians. Without these numbers, the pyramids themselves wouldn't have been constructed. Also, measurement units such as miles couldn't have existed. That's because there are exactly 5,280 feet in a mile.
If it wasn't for 528, you wouldn't have circles, you wouldn't have squares, you wouldn't have any sacred geometry. You wouldn't have pyramids. The pyramids are intimately constructed based on the mathematics of pi, phi. You wouldn't have pi or phi without 528. In other words, you wouldn't have anything without love.
Where do the frequencies differ? Although both frequencies have been known to have positive effects on humans, there are some differences between them that make people lean towards one or the other. For example, the 432 Hz frequency has been used to promote lower blood pressure, while the 528 Hz frequency has been mainly used in studies regarding DNA regeneration and healing. But let's take it one at a time. The 432 Hz frequency is generally associated with the fact that music turned to this frequency helps reduce stress and helps people sleep better. It's been demonstrated that listening to 432 Hz music helps reduce the heart rate, having a calming effect on the person listening. It also stimulates positive thinking and well-being. This frequency has been used in meditations for centuries as it helps stimulate and heal the root chakra. This is the chakra that's responsible for our feelings of safety and security. It's associated with the basic needs of any human, such as shelter, food, and water. The 432 Hz frequency is said to help focus energy on that chakra and make it more responsive to the energy from without. This way, people can experience a stronger sense of security. The 528 Hz frequency has been linked to the healing of the human body as well. For example, it has been called the love frequency. Although to some it may sound a bit confusing, it actually refers to the fact that during meditation, using music at 528 Hz, the body starts to develop a stronger sense of self-love. This is important because this way, negativity is driven out of the body, stimulating the heart chakra, located right in the solar plexus. This frequency is considered by many to be the most important one in the entire body.
The 528 Hz frequency is the main frequency of the so-called Solfeggio healing frequency. It's an old frequency, and I think the most outstanding difference to a lot of frequencies, what's supposed to be called healing frequencies, that the 528 Hz frequency is not a man-made frequency. It's a frequency that occurs in the universe. It occurs in every living matter. It occurs in the humming of the bees. It occurs in the chlorophyll of the leaves. So it's something what is understood, the miracle DNA repair, or the so-called divine frequency.
Another benefit of the 528 Hz frequency is that it's been demonstrated by researchers to lower the levels of anxiety. Measurements made on people while listening to 528 Hz music showed an increase in oxytocin levels and a decrease in cortisol. This is what makes people feel less stressed and anxious. Also, the people in these tests concluded that a music-based therapy that uses sounds and music at this frequency could work to help people deal with stress and negative thoughts in their lives. Another study showed that the 528 Hz frequency promotes the breakdown of ethanol in the blood. This is what's contained in all alcoholic beverages. It also increases cell life by almost 20%. This could lead to many breakthroughs in many fields of medicine, particularly those that deal with liver and blood cell regeneration. Also, speaking of liquids, the 528 Hz frequency has been used in other areas as well. For example, it has been successfully used in the cleaning up of a patch of water affected by the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Scientists concluded that after using music at 528 Hz, the water was cleaned and safe once again for marine life. Granted, some will say that it was just a fluke, but scientists that replicated the experiment in controlled conditions arrived at the same results.
The universe is made of water. Not only does the Bible say that, but NASA science proved that about 10 years ago when they discovered water throughout space.
Going from this observation, one could theorize that our bodies, being made up of over 50% water, we could use the same principles as described in the experiment and influence it in order to make it better or to get rid of any bad energy it might store. Where are the frequencies similar? Although the two frequencies differ greatly as to what they are used for, they also have a lot in common, starting with the fact that they have both been used by composers and singers over the years to create music. They're among the oldest frequencies used, and many examples of these can still be found in ancient texts that talk about chanting, or even in objects, such as Himalayan bowls, used for meditation and relaxation. Both have also been used in healing therapies around the world, from the ancient Eastern medicine centers all the way to the modern Western hospitals and clinics. These frequencies have been, in one way or another, used to treat various illnesses, and are still the basis for several ongoing types of research and studies about how sound and vibration can cure the human body at a molecular level. But the similarities aren't just based on usage and origins. The numbers themselves make the two frequencies unique. First of all, they have both been linked to Pythagoras in one way or another. 528 is an example of Pythagorean triples, while 432, although not such a triple, has been mentioned by Pythagoras in many writings and calculations regarding the golden ratio and the determination of pi and other important mathematical values. Also, the sums of both numbers also have a certain importance. The sum of 432 is 9, while the sum of 528 is 6. This led many to the conclusion that the two numbers, and thus the two frequencies, must be complementary to each other. It's a sort of yin and yang energy between the two. That's also why many people use these frequencies alternatively. How and when to use these frequencies? Both the 432 Hz frequency and the 528 Hz one have been successfully used by people all over the world and in almost every age in order to adjust their interior vibrations or to enhance certain parts of their person. So a series of therapies and methods of usage have been developed over the years. One of these methods is simply listening to music that is played at these frequencies. Remember that 432 is great for when you have those long drives and need something soothing to help you stay calm, while 528 is perfect for when you're having an off day and want to feel better about yourself. Another way you can use the two frequencies is when you want to meditate. You simply have to find a tuning fork that is tuned to the frequency you desire, and then just start and match that frequency with your voice. Himalayan bowls work just as fine for creating that ambiance that helps you get into a state of mental relaxation and inner exploration. Simply find yourself a quiet place and focus all of your energy and thoughts on fixing what you consider is wrong with you. Make sure that the music you're using is the right one for the occasion, and just let it do the rest. So, which frequency is best? Well, this is where it gets tricky. That's because there isn't a sure way of answering such a question. It's like comparing apples to oranges. They're both fruits, but each has its separate benefits and can't really be substituted one for another. Although there's still an ongoing debate about which frequency is the best, the point is that they're both unique and have their own separate benefits when it comes to the human body. Some may be partial to the 432 Hz frequency because they're more musically inclined. But that doesn't mean that 528 Hz frequency is anything to sneeze at. Sure, it may not be as popular or have that many speculations around it, but it does come with a very solid portfolio of various research and medical tests to prove that it is indeed very useful to people all over the world. The idea is that one does not cancel the other out. Each can be used for a specific purpose and also have fantastic results on the human body and mind. They're both something that we can use in order to heal our bodies and make our spirits more receptive to higher vibrations coming from places that we may not be able to perceive yet. They can improve us, and it should be our goal to use them in precisely that way, as often and as profoundly as possible.